Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to talk about if statements. And what's really great about if statements is it's a way for us to compare two values, two numerical values, or to check if something is true. So for artists, we always tend to love to think in if-else statements. Like if this happens, then do this. If this happens, do this. If none of those things happen, else do this. So let's talk a little bit about some really basic if statements. So one variable that we didn't talk about is a Boolean variable. So for example, say I have a variable called on, off. Alright, and it's of the Boolean data type. And that variable is equal to the word true, semicolon. A Boolean value only has two values. Something's either true or it's false. Is the character alive? Is the character dead? And you'll see more options and more ways of doing this as you begin to program. So for example, if we want to say if, and so this is sort of the body of our if statement, if on off, which is that variable that we created, and we could have gave it any name we wanted, is true, which we know it is, go ahead and print semicolon this statement is true. Alright, so let's go ahead and hit Control S and play that. And you see this statement is true is inside of my Boolean. So what an if statement does is it says if, and so this is one way of saying if on off, which means if it's true, print this statement. So we can also do things like compare values within an if statement. So for example, if we want to check if one variable is greater than another variable, we'd use the greater than sign, much like this. If we want to check if one variable is less than another variable, or is true, we would use this sign. If we want to check if one variable is greater than or equal to, so for example, is 4 greater than or equal to 4? It is equal to 4, but it is not greater than. But it doesn't matter because it's either or. It's set to true. Is less than or equal to 4? So is 3 less than or equal to 4? It's definitely less than, so this statement is true. And so it's a way of testing different values. So this is the equal to sign, so is 5 equal to 5? Yes, it is. Is 5 not equal to 4? That's definitely true. So it's a way of running expressions. So how do we apply that? So let's go ahead and comment this out. So how do we add that? So let's go ahead and let's grab these two variables from up here. Let's just copy them and place them above our Boolean value. So and let's go ahead and delete this on off here. So what we can say here is, let's go ahead and try out this greater than here. So if number 1, which is 5,000, so let's just go ahead and start by typing out number 1 is greater than number 2. Okay? If number 1 is greater than number 2, print this statement. Okay, we know number 1 is 5,000, and we know number 2 is 6,000. So let's see if it prints. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S and play it. And we don't get anything in our viewport. And the reason why is because number 1 is not greater than number 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch that around. Is number 1 less than number 2? We know that's true, so let's go ahead and play that out. And the statement is true because number 1 is less than number 2. So greater than or equal to 2, is number 1 greater than or equal to 2? Let's see. Is it greater than or equal to 2? Well, I could probably just run through these with you at this point, but yeah, is number 1 greater? No, it's 5,000. Is it equal to number 2? No, that's not the case at all. Is it less than or equal to 2? Is number 1 less than or equal to 2? It's definitely less than or equal to 2. So let's go ahead and switch that around. And when I save that and play it, we'll definitely see that this statement is true appears. So, and we can also check is so example, is it equal to 2? It's not. Is it not equal to 2? It is. So that would be another statement that would print at this point. Okay, let's talk a little bit, now that we know how to sort of compare operators and we know how to check if something is true or false, let's go ahead and add a else if statement. So for example, we can type, let's go ahead and close this up. We can create another statement saying else if, and open close parentheses, open curly brace, close curly brace. And what we can say in this one is this: if this statement is not true, so if number 1 is not less than or equal to number 2, print this statement. So let's go ahead and make this false. Let's say if number 1 is greater than, which it's not, 5,000, or equal to number 2, print this statement. So this statement will not print because 5,000 is not greater than or equal to 6,000. So it will not print this statement. But if we say, let's go ahead and just copy this here. If we say number 1 is less than or equal to number 2, if we go ahead and change this around, and then we can write here, let's go ahead and copy our print statement. If we write in here, we say this else if statement is true, because we know number 1 is 5,000. It is definitely less than number 2, which is 6,000. So if I go ahead and save this and I play it, what you'll notice is this else if statement is true. So what an else if does is, an else if is executed if the if statement is not, or if the if statement fails. So what if we want to have a third option where if none of these work, so if there's no possible scenario, it'll still print something? Well, that's where the else comes in. Now an else has no parameters. It's just your fallback. So you can say, so if we say that if num1 is the same as num2, that means they're both 5,000, print this statement. Else we can print this, which says none of the above statements are true. Alright, let's go ahead and Control S that, save that. Let's press play. And it says none of the above statements are true. And the reason why is because they're not. Num1 is definitely not greater than num2, and num1 is definitely not the same as num2. So if none of the above statements are true, then the else statement runs.